Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing all right. Today we are going to dive into most essential concept in UiPath automation. This concept widely requested in our channel. The concept is all about dispatcher and performer model using RE framework. Now, whether you're preparing for a job interview, certification, or even working on an enterprise level automation at your organization, this concept is must known, right? Now, without any ado, let's get started. I have already prepared the solution of dispatcher performer based on our previous session on RE explanation. If you haven't gone through my previous session, please do go through that. It gives you more understanding of what is RE framework is all about in UiPath. I made sure that I try to explain it in as much as possible in a simple terms. So do recommend before watching this to go through that, so that way you understand what is RE framework if you are a beginner. Now I have taken a copy of previous solution that I have built and renamed into a dispatcher and performer and made minute tweaks in it and made some changes in it. So I will walk you through all of them, and by the end of this, I will also run the automation and showcase how they behave. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is that, I'll take you step by step. First, I'll explain or provide an understanding of what is this dispatcher and the performer is all about in UiPath. And then I'll walk you through on running the automation and showcasing the results to you. Don't worry, I won't take much time explaining on all the theoretical aspect of it. You can find it in uh, UiPath Academy courses as well. What I'm going to give as a little bit of theory is that, trying to explain it to you in a simple term, trying to help you understand what is this dispatcher and concept and why they are needed. That's all I'm going to talk about as a theoretical aspect of it. And then we'll directly jump into a demo solution. If you want me to explain in detail, do let me know in the comment section. I will try to make another session on this and provide more in-depth knowledge about it. All right. Now, what is dispatcher and performer? In UiPath, a large processes are often split into two parts, the dispatcher and the performer. Now, the dispatcher is responsible for collecting the data. For example, reading the data from Excel file or web application. All right. And then what it does, it uploads the data to queue. Now, the performer, on the other hand, it reads the data from that particular queue and then it works on the business logics. So, in a layman term, what we can say, the dispatcher maybe is the mind of the automation and performer is the heart of the automation. If you put together, then we have a proper functioning automation solution. Now, let's understand why the necessity of splitting it into two rather than having it in one. As you can see, we can actually make it in one itself rather than splitting it to two, right? The main reason is that, and it actually most important reason when you automate is that modularity, scalability also makes your process more robust and reusable. Now, what all these things is that modularity in the sense the dispatcher, like I mentioned, it handles the data collection, right? Sends the data to queue. Performer, what it does, it processes those data that is been sent to queue, which is basically one at a time. That makes each part smaller, easy to manage, and more reusable in nature. Now, scalability. You can run performer in parallelly. Basically, multiple server can run the same automation, pulling the data from same queue. Remember, it's a queue-based automation performer. Now, this is useful when you have a large workload and you speed up the distributing the work into multiple available machines, robot machines, and process increase the execution performance or execution speed. Say you have hundred thousands invoices, you can split into multiple server parallelly. That way, it runs in multiple machines and produces the results way faster than running in one server or one robot, which basically has the own standalone projects. Now, these are the two reasons or two most important reasons why we need to choose dispatcher and performer. Now, let's get started with the technical solution. I'm just going to recap on our last session, which is the RE framework. Explaining on the RE framework, I won't go ahead and explain all the points in the RE framework. Just that what we have done is that we have in the init all settings, we read the data from RPA sample opportunity and we extracted the data, we uploaded the data into Orchestrator. While the in the process, what it did is that it checks whether the quantity is less than or equal to 30. If it is, then the quantity is available is what I'm printing as a log message, which is success basically. If it exceeds 30, then we have a business exception. It's been thrown. Now, this is the one entire RE framework solution. What if we split into dispatcher and performer? How it looks is what we're going to dive into today. Now, for dispatcher, this is the full of changes that I have done in the frameworks. I'll walk you through it. Everything remains the same what we have done last time. Just copy and paste it as a create a copy of it and rename it as a dispatcher. Now I will go ahead and open the in init all settings. The extraction remains the same. Opportunity in the RPA sample opportunity, we are extracting the data. That remains the same. However, instead of uploading here directly, the way that we were doing earlier, right? Uploading the data, looking through each record, what I'm doing is that I am outing the data. Remember, now I have considered the dispatcher and performer both in the RE framework concept. You can have the dispatcher in normal flow, which is normal flow in the sense, create a process like this, all right, and create some dispatcher itself, and you can actually use, I mean, all these steps which you have done in init can be moved into init all setting itself. However, what I'm doing right now, I'm not going that route. I usually, whenever I deal with any automation, I usually retain both dispatcher and performer in an RE framework itself. That way, in future aspects of it, if anything, any new changes comes into picture or anything happens, it is easy for me to adopt it. Uh, Basically, error handling is already done over here and everything. It's easy to, I just have to do a plug and play. That's it. So I usually maintain it. Now, how do we maintain it? Remember, we are in the dispatcher, usually we deal it as a data table or maybe something related to array, not as a queue item. You can just remember this concept. I will explain it when we reach to the point of get transaction data, but remember this concept for now. Uh, I'll go back. As I mentioned, I have outed the data as extracted data. Now, I'll go to the init invoke that we have done, which is here. And this is the, I have outed data, extracted data, and I have assigned the data to transaction data. All right. Now, the transaction data should be when you create an RE framework, the DT transaction data is already there. You just have to assign the value to it. You don't have to create a new data table. All right, let's move to get transaction data. But before that, I'll show you something. Transaction item. Did you notice something? Here I have converted this transaction item into data row. I'll show you something. Just a second. I'll create one robotic enterprise solution. Um, Let it be. I don't have to provide any name. I just want to show you something. When you change the data type of transaction item to anything, say object, not object, maybe let's say I will change it into some string or int. You see, here are the two places that we end up having the error. Now, one error comes under in here, transaction item is nothing. Another one is here, right? Now, if I just remove and then paste back again, it goes away. Did you see that? So it's kind of a glitch, maybe. Here, it's obviously you will get it because this is a queue item and you're assigning a string. That is something that we already aware about. We just need to change the data type in here in this workflow. But I'm just saying on these things that you need to make some manual intervention. That what you need to do as soon as you change the data type, you have to go to that particular error that it is showing, right? And then maybe control X on this particular left side of the assign, select control A and control X, basically take up everything and then paste back again. It should go away. So this is what I wanted to show you. Here it's happening for process, so you should be fine. And this transaction set, you just have to delete it. I'll explain. I'll come to that when we go to the point of process state. As of now, in the get transaction, this is some glitch with RA framework that I wanted to explain. Now, we don't want to save anything. We'll close it. Okay, now back to the explanation of oh. Sure. Now let's get back to our explanation on our dispatcher. So I'll navigate to get transaction data. All right. Now I'll go back to our RE framework with the get transaction step. Now here you can see, right, what we are doing. We are getting the item from queue. Remember, this is an entire one automation which contains both concepts of dispatcher and performer. Now, what I'm doing, I don't have that this one, get transaction item in here at all, right? If you see, if I minimize this, immediately after retry get transaction, there is a if condition. I have retained the if condition, but I did not retain the get transaction item. In place of that, I have add some assign activity. Remember, earlier I mentioned that I have changed the data type of transaction item into data row. Here, what I'm doing is the transaction data, which is basically has the exported informations of the web page, rows of transaction number, which means this is an index number 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, I missed to inform you one thing. When you get the new RE framework, the transaction number always 1. I have changed it into 0 because this for me transaction number is nothing but it's a index number, not the queue transaction number in the dispatcher I'm referring to. All right. So here what happens? The transaction number 0123, basically the index of the data table. Now row of, so zeroth row, first row, second row, third row, all these row wise data, I'm passing it to a transaction item which contains only one row at a time. All right. So this is only change. When it reaches the maximum number, right? Basically, when it starts from zero and when it end at uh, the last row, you don't have any records, right? After that. So to handle that, I have kept this in a try block, and in the catch block, I have assigned the value as nothing, basically no data. And then the remaining concept of RE framework stays as is, no changes is being done. All right, let's move to the performer part of it. In the performer, I did something here compared to our normal RE framework. I'll open normal RE framework, which we have. This is the status, transaction status. As you can see, I don't have that at all. I just removed it. Transaction status, what it does, if I open this, it sets something in the orchestrator queue, right? Their statuses, either success, business exception, or system exception. Now, the concept of dispatcher is what? Only to upload the data. For that reason, I have removed the concept of setting up the status. But I retain one concept, which is the setting up the transaction number or increasing this transaction number, retrying number, consecutive system exception. This way, what happens, the RE frameworks of rest of the part, what it does, right? Maybe retrying or maybe consecutive numbers, all these things are automatically incremented and the corresponding logics will work. Now, for the other parts of it, business exception and system exception, I have added a log. Now here, you can do, what you can do is that for your, it depends on your automation. In case you want to get an alert message of business and system exceptions, you can add maybe alert messages or Teams messages, emails, or anything such in here. All right. Now, this is the changes that I have done in the performer. Sorry, in the dispatcher of process state. In the performer, only one step, which is adding the records queue. And here, again, the transaction item is a data row. And this is the queue name that we already have. Account name is transaction item, which is data row of account name dot toString. And then quantity, which is just zoom in for sake of syntax. Transaction item, which is data type, data row of quantity toString. Now that's all I have done to, on the, in terms of changing our this YAML file to dispatcher. Right? Now let us run. Before that, I'll show you something. This is the data. Before running, I ran the automation just to make sure we had the concept is working or not. Now this is the sales data that we have, right? Let's run this automation and see what is the data that we are receiving. Now automation has started. It has extracted. Total numbers are 18. It started processing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. While it does, let's go back and refresh transaction, the sales data. See, we have all the new queue items added. Let's see first one. Team 31 quantity, HR quantity 2, HR top recruitment 100. Let's see, was that the correct? See, Teams is the last record that was uploaded. HR expert is 2, HR top recruitment is 100. So it is working as per the expectation, right? So let's go back again and see it ran and the run is completed. Now let's go to performer. We are done with the dispatcher. For performer, everything remains the same as per our old script. The only modification that I have done is that entire concept which was there as an init all settings that has been completely erased. You see, nothing is there which was there for us earlier for REQ. And everything else kept as is, no changes made at all to the script, which meaning that transaction number, also one transaction queue, transaction item is queue item, and then going to the process state, you see, the set transaction status has been retained and everything. Also, get transaction item, we have get transaction item retained. So, performer, what it does, it fetches the data from the queue using get transaction item with the first rule of first in first out and process them individually one after the other using process flow or process state, and then locks the status of it using our script called status script set transaction status, and then it maybe you can add a logic as well in the end state to send the consolidated information as well. You can maintain during process state with the data table of storing all the data that you have got. So kind of like you can add additional features as well. As of now, I have kept simple as which we had earlier. All right, so now let's run this performer and see how it behaves. I'll go to the code. This is dispatcher, this is performer. Now you see the transaction has already begun and it started running. Next, let's see the queue. What's happening with the queue? You see, all are getting processed one after the other, right? So the execution has completed and we have the results here. And that's how you separate a process into dispatcher and performer in UiPath. This design improves performance, error handling, especially when you're scaling it up. If you found this demo useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, I will make another session on dispatcher and performer itself, but maybe with another different concept. All right. So thanks for watching. See you in the next session. Happy automation. Bye.